Hi everyone, my name is James,
I'm Jazzlyn.
and we're your MCR Parliamentarians for the 2020-2021 school year. And this is your workshop on parliamentary procedure. So what do these organizations all have in common? First, we see the United Nations, the school board, the homeowners association, and all different levels of government. The answer, of course, is parliamentary procedure. These organizations all use some form of parliamentary procedure that we will be talking about today. What are we doing here today? What are we going to learn?
Parliament procedure, aka Robert's Rules of Order.
So, what are Robert's Rules of Order or parliamentary procedure used for?
These rules keep order and structure during MCR-SGA meetings, especially executive board meetings. On the most basic level, we use parliamentary procedure to guide our organization discussions in an orderly manner, promoting justice and equality in our debates.
And why should everyone here learn them?
Anyone who wishes to bring up anything during the meetings must do it while following Parliament procedure. This includes making a motion or objecting, agreeing to another motion.
In general, there are 10 rules that govern a meeting.
The agenda set the order of business. The chairperson must remain unbiased. Members must be recognized by the chairperson before speaking. Only one item of business is discussed at a time. All members have the right to ask questions and to have the questions answered. Any member can stop the meeting if they do not understand the content. A member may debate once and may not speak again until all other members have a chance to speak. The majority rules, but the right and views of the majorities are respected. Business introduced by an individual becomes the property of the assembly. The assembly can always revert its decision as a collective group.
First, let's talk about the agenda. The agenda is an overview or a plan of what we can anticipate we will cover during a meeting. Here's what a typical agenda may look like.
First, we have the call to order, then the approval of the minutes, the approval of the agenda, staff reports, unfinished business, new business, announcements, and adjournment.
Next, we're going to talk about a motion. A motion is a formal step to introduce a matter for consideration by a group as a collective whole.
There are three outcomes of a motion. One, another idea. Two, going back to the main idea with a change. And three, going back to the main idea with no change. When someone makes a motion, the person that makes the motion has the floor after the motion is made. They will start with, I move that.
An example that I can give is I move to adjourn this meeting. At the end of a meeting, we will always have one member of the board who motions to adjourn the meeting. Now it's a practice time. You make a motion. That's a nice motion. Let's move on. After someone makes a motion, there are several different ways we can continue.
To agree with a motion, I can say, I second that motion, or just second. To object to the motion, I say, I object to consideration of this motion. But this must come with a reason to why you object to that motion.
If an
And when
objection occurs, there will be a debate. How does this debate happen? A debate is an organized discussion for and against a proposal.
if the objection occurs on the matter of the resolution and the statement from both the affirmative and negative sides of the issue is made, a vote is held to determine whether or not to continue the debate.
While the majority rules on whether or not the debate continues, the minority opinion should always be respected.
2/3 supermajority vote is needed to stop debate. After all speakers have spoken, the chair calls for a motion for a vote by the board members. A majority is needed to pass the debate resolution or motion.
Next, we'll talk about the fours.
These are the 4 points. The first point is the point of personal privilege. The second point is the point of clarification. The third point is the point of order, and the fourth one is the point of information.
The other four are the four basic principles. The first is that the majority rules. The second is that the right of the minority exists. Third is to discuss one business item at a time. And fourth is to ensure justice and courtesy to all. Respect is the most important in a civilized discussion. Let's go more in depth. What is the point of personal privilege? Every member of a body that is governed under parliamentary procedure, and thus all MCR executive board members, deserve every right to make themselves comfortable and ready to be a contributing piece of every meeting that takes place.
If anything that doesn't contain, relate, bother your ability to comprehend the material of the meeting, you acquire a point of personal privilege. This includes not being able to see the projector, not being able to hear the speaker, not having received a copy of the agenda or material, etc.
After a point of personal privilege is made, the chair and other members of the board will do their best to accommodate for that member of the board. However, this ability to ask for personal privilege does not give you an excuse to show up to a meeting unprepared. So while it is important that we must accommodate for all of our executive board members, it is equally important that we don't misuse or abuse this aspect of parliamentary procedure to inappropriately use others' time. The next point we'll talk about is the point of order. Remember the most important rule of parliamentary procedure? That's right.
It's creating structure in our MCR executive board meetings to guide our organization discussions in an orderly manner, promoting justice and equality in our debate.
As a member of an organization governed by parliamentary procedure, it is up to you to keep the order when a breach of order occurs. Any member who notices a breach of the rules has the right to call immediate action to the effect and insist that the rules be enforced by raising a point of order. If you see a breach, you can interrupt the speaker during debate. The chair can accept the point of order and it will be addressed. Then the point is resolved and business continues. Next, we'll talk about the point of information and the point of clarification. Questions or statements from the opposing side during a debate made to a speaker that is in process of giving their speech is a point of information.
During a formal debate, there is an allotted amount of time a speaker may present their point during which no one else may speak. But during parliament debates, anyone can request the speaker for permission to interject. The formal way to raise a POI is to stand up, put one's hand on your head, extend your other hand towards the speaker, and to ask point of information. However, for MCR in-person meetings, we just stand. For MCR virtual meetings, we use the raise hand function.
Be sure to show respect to the speaker and not talk over their speech. The speaker that holds the floor has the right to not accept any POIs and ask for you to sit down. You can stay standing for as long as you want unless the chair tells you to sit down in a matter of disruption. A point of clarification occurs after the speech has been made, but it is limited to clarification of nuances that occurred in the speech rather than influence of content. Next, we'll talk about writing resolutions.
A resolution is a formal written idea to request an opinion or to take action as a collective organization. Here is the format of a resolution. Whereas, you insert your first reason, Whereas, again, you insert another reason. And whereas the last time, which you insert your last reason, and then you explain what you want to get done in your resolve.
It is important to know that 3 is the bare minimum number of whereas clauses you can have for a resolution, just to make sure that you have at least 3 reasons for the resolution or the resolved statement. Remember, whereas means why. Why are you proposing this plan? Why do you think that it's important to do this? And why do you think MCR is the right organization to take action on this issue item? Let's look at an example.
Whereas it's important for students' voices to be heard, and whereas collective voice of students are more powerful than a single voice, and whereas MASC has researched and will present for discussion and sustain youth-related bills in the Maryland General Assembly, be it hereby resolved. MASC represents the collective voice of Maryland students of youth-related bills in the Maryland General Assembly.
This is a great example because it is short and is succinct. We have 3 good reasons for why MASC should represent the collective voice of Maryland students on youth-related bills in the Maryland General Assembly. Here is a Robert's Rule of Order cheat sheet that we have compiled. It will be put in the MCR Google Drive, and any MCR Executive Board member will have access to it. Let's go through every single item in this table. First, we have adjournment. To adjourn, we will say,
I move that we adjourn.
to recess, we will say,
I move that we recess until.
to complain about noise, room temperature, etc., we will say,
Point of privilege.
to suspend further consideration of something, we will say,
I move that we table it.
to end debate, we will say,
I move the previous question.
to postpone consideration of something, we will say,
I move that we postpone this matter until.
to amend a motion, we will say,
I move that this motion be amended by.
to introduce business, we will say,
I move that.
to object to procedure or personal affront, we will say,
Point of order.
to request information, we will say,
Point of information.
to ask for a vote by actual count to verify voice vote, we will say,
I call for a divide of the House.
to object to considering some undiplomatic or improper matter, we will say,
I object to consideration of this question.
to take up matter previously tabled, we will say,
I move we take from the table.
to reconsider something already disposed of, we will say,
I move we now or later reconsider our actions relevant
to consider something out of its scheduled order, we will say,
I move we suspend the rule and consider.
to vote on a ruling by the chair, we will say,
I appeal the chair's decision.
great job. Now you know all the basics of what we can say during a session that is governed by parliamentary procedure. You will see to the right that for every statement we have gone over, there are specific items that we can debate, we can amend, or if we need a vote. These are just things to keep in mind, and this reference will be always available to you in the MCR Google Drive. To wrap up, let's look at this graphic.
To start off, we have an idea or the main motion. After that, it moves to people that agree with that motion, they will second it. And then one person speaks at a time and people will debate the motion that was first moved. So the pro debate side will talk about why it's a good idea, and the con-debate side will talk about why it isn't a good idea.
At this
After
point,
that,
there are many things that can happen. You can either push for a vote on the idea, at which point you can vote yes for a pass, vote no for a fail. You can have an idea for a change, which is an amendment, and it will go on to have a vote for the change or talk about why the change is good or bad. Or you can table it and say, let's talk about this at another meeting. This is the basics of parliamentary procedure. Thank you for watching this video. This video has covered the basics on parliamentary procedure and how it applies to the MCR Executive Board. As we mentioned before, the Roberts Rules of Order and the Parliamentary Procedure Basics and the revised worksheet will be saved in the MCR Google Drive for you to access at any point in time. This has been James,
and Jazzlyn.
your MCR parliamentarians for the 2020-2021 school year, signing off.